Hello, I'm Karen Stone, and this is Year by Year. In 1953, the U.S. economy was booming. Americans were in the money, and they weren't shy about spending it, perhaps on the year's newest consumer product, a color TV. The Korean War was over, but the Cold War was getting chillier each day. The newsreels of 1953 take us to the fairy tale wedding of Senator John F. Kennedy and Jacqueline Bouvier. We'll stop in on the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II and witness the swearing in of Supreme Court Justice Earl Warren. Vintage footage of all these stories and more on Year by Year, 1953.
In the old State Department building in Washington, a precedent is set for the Eisenhower administration as the Washington Press Corps arrives to meet the president for the first of his weekly conferences. There are 234 of the elite of American journalism present to hear the chief executive's opening statement on farm prices, secret foreign agreements, Russian possession of the atom bomb, balancing of the budget, and excess profits taxes. Out of the 34-minute conference, 11 minutes are devoted to a rapid-fire series of questions and answers. Questions which the president answers frankly and without evasion. Next on the White House agenda is the arrival of Governor Adlai Stevenson, defeated Democratic candidate, for an informal discussion with the president of his forthcoming round-the-world tour. The president promises to aid Governor Stevenson in his trip to troubled spots of the world, and then invites his former rival to the bipartisan congressional luncheon held weekly at the White House. This is democracy in action.
President Eisenhower appoints Governor Earl Warren of California as Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. The 62-year-old Californian, shown here with his family, becomes the 14th man in our history to occupy the nation's highest judicial post. He succeeds the late Fred M. Vinson of Kentucky. Governor of his state for 10 years, Earl Warren will be the second Republican on the Supreme Court. He will preside over a tribunal which is faced with history-making decisions.
Randy Turpin, the British middleweight title holder and former world champ, continues his fight-a-month campaign. This month, it's in Leicester, England, against the South African Dougie Miller. 9th round, Cap-Pow! Gamely, the South African boy rises at the count of 8 to last the round. Round 10, Turpin out to wrap things up, and does. Randy hopes to win the world title this way come June, when he fights either Humez of France or Bobo Olsen of Honolulu. This, according to British promoter Jack Solomons, who is irked at suggestions from America that his boy Turpin engage in elimination bouts. The man who once beat Sugar Ray Robinson, and who now disposes of Lesser Fry month after month, why, that man fights only for the title, says Solomons, who is not averse to telling us Americans where to head in. We can take it. Only question is, who fights who for the title? Who knows? Some fathers are big shots to their sons. Here's an Australian father who's more shot at than shot. But son Jim is a good shot, so the old boy isn't nervous. This one is an eye-opener. Father says he'll have a shot, too. Croquet with a bang. It's in the bag. What was in the bag? Water. Now, like our story, it's all over. The volcanic outburst of carnival spirit climaxes New Orleans Mardi Gras with a Rex Parade as thousands throng the downtown streets. Practically anything goes as the spirit of revelry reaches its height. In this case, boy meets girl. Fit for a sultan's palace, they are. The can-cans can and do. Everybody's feeling bully for the Rex Parade, which had its origin in 1872. The glowworm blows his top. Another reveler gets a lift from the proceedings. Hemlines will be higher, but him likes them lower. Run for the hills, men. Annie's here, and she's having a barrel of fun. Everybody is.
Boom times are in sight again for Central City, Colorado, famed in last century's gold rush days. But today's bonanza is a metal more precious than gold or silver. There's uranium in them thar hills and in the tailings, those mountainous heaps of ore discarded as worthless by gold seekers. Today, they bring life back to the ghost towns of once thriving Gilpin County. Indispensable in today's prospector's kit is the Geiger counter, for here is the raw material of atomic energy. New riches out of the one-time richest square mile on Earth. Feeding the animals at the zoo is an old story to most kids, but it was all exciting and new to a group of 60 New York youngsters, special guests of the Wonderland Farm Zoo. The children are blind. They can't see the little lambs, the calves, and other pets, but the thrill of touching them is very real. Something tells a little boy a horse is big. He would prefer Mary's little lamb, all of which puzzles a kindly old dobbin. The zoo is indeed a wonderland for the handicapped youngsters. Through their hands and hearts, they meet inhabitants of a world they had heard about from books, but never glimpsed until today. A new world is discovered through the sense of touch. Little girls make big news in Long Beach, California. They're having a beauty parade, 100 of them between the ages of 4 and 6, competing for the title Miss California Junior. Wearing the latest in small fry fashions, the purveyors of pint-sized pulchritude parade past judges and visitors to the annual California Society picnic in Bixby Park. Poise and personality are paramount, and 4-year-old Jane Rubel has both aplenty, as everyone is quick to agree. Yes, little Curly Top is California's junior miss. Sugar and spice, she's got a lot. She's tops of all the tiny tots. Geralda Farms at Madison, New Jersey, setting once again for the world's greatest and doggiest outdoor show, the Morrison Essex Kennel Club fixture. Basking in reflected glory, more than 2,600 canine blue bloods, representing a record number of breeds, make friends and influence people as they catch that scintillating scent of success in the air. A basset hound seems more unconcerned than some of his friends, though not as puzzled perhaps as a shepherd, and certainly not as bored by it all as a bloodhound. Dane is melancholy as 0 hour approaches. Bully Boy just hangs on with dogged determination, but for best of show honors, it was a race between an English setter, Skyway, and a Welsh Terrier. Top flight template of Twin Ponds, Taffy for short. It was a long pull, but Taffy won. A terrier is tops, best in show. The Air Force takes the wraps off its newest and most powerful bomber menace at MacDill Field, Florida. The hand-picked crews who man the 90-ton giants get a personal briefing from General Curtis LeMay, Chief of the Strategic Air Command. They move into their final series of tests before being integrated into the units of the long-range bombers. Department of Defense pictures give a graphic account of their takeoff. Once aloft, the secret of their phenomenal record of 12,000 miles non-stop is revealed. A tanker plane moves into position for the delicate refueling operation. The pipe from the tanker is lowered to the nose of the bomber as pilots of both planes keep in constant radio contact. The coupling device is attached, and the fuel for 6 thirsty jet engines flows into the bomber's tanks. The B-47 can now be on its way at a fantastic speed of 555 miles per hour. Marine Captain Ted Williams arrives at Moffett Field, home for treatment of an ear ailment after completing 38 Korean air combat missions. To be discharged soon, the Red Sox star tells newsmen he'll play no baseball this season, but hopes to be back in action for the 1954 season. Back on home soil, never could there be so welcome a sight as the faces of those who greeted the first 29 returned prisoners of war at Travis Air Force Base, California. Some couldn't walk off the huge Stratofreighter, but their stretchers had a new sense of security as they were whisked to waiting ambulances in friendly hands among friendly faces, and above all, the feel of American soil beneath them. Yes, they had come home, and it had been a long way, and they brought with them the cruel brands of war and imprisonment. Even as they arrived in San Francisco, arrangements were underway to take them to their hometowns. In New York, the arrival of a transport plane in one of the world's busiest airports brings out the press in force, as Juan Osorio Melendez of Puerto Rico is first of the repatriated prisoners to reach New York, and the welcoming arms of his mother, his wife, and the welcome sight of the baby he'd never seen. This was reunion in New York for one who had lived many more than his 22 years. At Philadelphia, two anxious parents await Private Wilbur Waring. It's a long way down that ramp on crutches, but it doesn't seem long when at the end his mother's arms await him with a clap on the back from his father. The long days and months of waiting and anxiety are over. Private Waring has come back to his own, forgotten of the lives torn asunder in the one great moment of reunion. He's home.
Still to come on Year by Year, the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II and the front page news of 1953.
We now return to Year by Year and our host, Sharon Stone.
Front page news of 1953, Julius and Ethel Rosenberg are executed. Chuck Yeager breaks the speed record, flying faster than 1,600 miles per hour, and the Soviets detonate the H-bomb.
A thousand years of history and tradition unroll in London town on Coronation Day, a glittering spectacle witnessed by millions undaunted by rain. In the procession, Britain's Prime Minister, Sir Winston Churchill, who has served 5 monarchs. All the Queen's horses and lines of her men, resplendent in their trappings of royal service, forming a guard of honor now for Queen Mother Elizabeth and Princess Margaret. Through the gates of Buckingham Palace rolls the ornate golden coach of state, carrying a beautiful and radiant girl of 27 years to her coronation. Beside her in the gilt coach is her sailor husband, Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. Big Ben, atop Parliament, looks down on the royal procession as it reaches Westminster Abbey, and the coronation stage is set for Act 2 of this most lavish, costly production of the century.
Inside the ancient edifice, before peers of the realm and 7,500 selected guests, begins the solemn ceremony of consecration and dedication, changed but little over the years. Prince Charles finds grandmother a patient teacher as he tries to absorb the meaning and significance of what he sees and hears. For here, knighthood reaches its full flower in the 20th century, in these relics of Britain's earlier days of heraldry and chivalry, stemming from William the Conqueror. A large order for 4-year-old eyes and ears. But someday, this pageantry may mark his own coronation. He may hold the scepter of power and the rod of mercy as the climactic moment approaches. The moment of the Queen's crowning has come. Holding high St. Edward's crown, the Archbishop lowers the 5-pound symbol of might and power, and as he places it upon the Queen's head and removes his hands, the assemblage in one voice cries, "God save the Queen."
A surge of emotion built up over the long hours overflows now as the triumphant procession heads back to Buckingham Palace. The long ordeal is over now. The solemnity of crowning is behind her, and a radiant queen rides through lines of her cheering subjects. Joy and jubilation flow unrestrained in London. The Queen is crowned, symbol of hope for austerity-ridden Britain. As the golden coach returns to the palace, the crowd breaks through the police cordon and rushes forward for a glimpse of the royal family on the balcony. The Queen with her ladies-in-waiting, her husband Philip, and her 2 children, Prince Charles and Princess Anne, an unforgettable picture for loyal subjects below. Queen Elizabeth, symbol of hope for the dawn of a new Elizabethan era, and Prince Charles, who will one day wear his mother's crown. Free men everywhere join in wishing her a long and prosperous reign.
spectacular scenes of split-second emergency aboard the carrier Block Island off the Virginia coast as a routine landing winds up with the plane over the side in a freak crash with a stranger sequel. Defense Department cameramen film the accident and a rescue job that has to be done twice. A helicopter pickup fails, and it's an old-style longboat that finally does the job. At Lowry Air Force Base, the summer White House, President Eisenhower signs a series of bills passed in the last days of the 83rd Congress. Among them is a bill permitting the entrance of 220,000 displaced persons, as well as a measure setting up a joint New York-New Jersey commission to stamp out racketeering on the nation's busiest waterfront. 20 new laws are now on the books. 18,000 tons of rice and other vital commodities are assembled on an Oakland, California pier for shipment to Korea. It is the first of several shipments to be made under the Korean Rehabilitation Program. The rice will go to replace the yield of thousands of paddies devastated by the 3-year war. The bulging holes of the New Rochelle victory are symbolic of the fact that America has not forgotten a brave people. At Carnoustie, Scotland, Ben Hogan draws a large following for the final round of the British Open. Frank Stranahan of Ohio gets away, followed by the tiny Texan, Big Ben to British admirers. He got off to a slow start, but finishes fast, despite some opposition, like this from Stranahan. The Toledo ace really chipped onto this green, and he winds up in a 4-way tie for second after winning the first round with a sizzling 70. Sparkling play, but it was the steel-nerved Hogan, U.S. Open champ, who stole the show and the hearts of the fans. The wee Iceman, they called him in Scotland. He missed a close one on occasion, but by now his lead was too commanding. 73 in the first round, 71 in the second, then a 70. And now he holds out with a record-shattering 68 to take the title. So Ben Hogan joins golf immortals Bobby Jones and Gene Sarazen, winning both the U.S. and British Open titles in 1 year. Kentucky Derby rivalry renewed at the Preakness Stakes in Baltimore. Number 3 is Dark Star, who flashed a victory at Churchill Downs, upsetting number 4, Native Dancer. Alfred Gwynn Vanderbilt's classy gray colt, an odds-on favorite to win today, and they're off. 7 3-year-olds off after fame and fortune in this mile and 3/16 classic. Act 2 of Turfdom's big 3-act show. Derby, Preakness here at Pimlico, and the Belmont Stakes. Dark Star is setting the pace with Tahitian King in second place as they head into the first turn. And a 14-carat thriller is in the making. $65,000 rides with the winner of this one. And the wagering waxed warm as Reuter now waxes hot. Dark Star is still leading in the backstretch with Tahitian King second, but Native Dancer is moving up. In third place now, setting sail for his 13th win in 14 starts and sweet revenge for the upset at Louisville. Dark Star has blazed himself out. Now Native Dancer is calling the tune with Jamie Kay, number 2, moving up with him. Jamie Kay, a 16-to-1 shot. The veteran Eddie Arcaro in the irons. Into the stretch, Native Dancer, Jamie Kay, Royal Bay Jim third, a rip-roaring race to the wire. We'll slow down the action as the Dancer, with jockey Eric Guerin coaxing him on, fights off the stretch drive of the oncoming Jamie Kay. It's going to be close. Close was right. It's Native Dancer by a neck over Jamie Kay, and a spine-tingling finish to the 77th run for the Black-Eyed Susans. The Dancer is back in step with his fans. Traditional honors in the winner's circle. Black-Eyed Susans for Native Dancer. Orchids to Jockey Guerin. Man and Mount, pride of the Preakness. American industry in action. Automobiles and planes roll off twin assembly lines at Kansas City in a dual-purpose plant, which can be converted to all warplane production in a matter of hours, or can revert completely to the production of automobiles. Here, the Thunderstreak nears completion after 2 years of tooling up for its production. Hopes are high that the Thunderstreak, when fully tested, may equal or surpass the Saberjet, now the scourge of Korean skies. It is the first of its type to roll out of the dual-purpose plant to join America's rapidly growing Air Armada. While on the French aviation scene, flying boxcars lead off a mammoth air show at Le Bourget. A French transport goes through its paces under the interested eyes of General Norstad. NATO Air Chief. One of the attractions of the show is the French jet, the Mystère, which performs under the proud gaze of President Oriol. The Mystère may not long be a mystery. All manner of French test planes display their wares before a crowd of more than 400,000. A crowd which includes Madame Jacqueline Oriol, France's ace aviatrix. A Delta wing job completes the biggest show in France since the war. Back in the United States at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, 1,008 paratroopers embark on a group of huge Globemasters for the biggest mass jump in American aviation history. Department of Defense pictures show what has been described as the biggest troop drop from the smallest number of planes on record. The formation approaches the drop area, and the order is given to hit the silk. The maneuver goes forward with the precision of an infantry drill. The sky is veritably covered with paratroopers who hit their target right on the nose.
When Year by Year returns, the wedding of John F. Kennedy and Jacqueline Bouvier and the cost of living in 1953. In 1953, the price of steak was 92 cents a pound, milk sold for 22 cents a quart, and a loaf of bread, 16 cents.
The wedding of Senator John F. Kennedy recalls Newport's one-time social grandeur. Speaker of the House Martin, Congresswoman Edith North Rogers, Senator and Mrs. Leverett Saltonstall, screen celebrity Marion Davies, and former Ambassador and Mrs. Joseph Kennedy, parents of the groom, are among the personalities on hand to make this the top society wedding of the year. For the spectators outside the church, it's a real storybook wedding. A radiant bride, the former Jacqueline Bouvier, and a handsome groom. With a pretty wife and a politically rising star, the future seems bright for the junior senator from Massachusetts. In Long Beach, thousands line the route as 67 of the world's most beautiful girls parade by. It's the opening event in the second annual Miss Universe contest, with entrants from around the globe matching their charms for the beauty crown and a chance at movie stardom. Though they come from near and far, speaking many languages, all share in the universal language of beauty. A galaxy of glamour. Miss Hawaii brings a hula greeting. It's a panorama of pulchritude as the girls line up for group photos. Pity the poor judges who have to pick one winner from this eye-filling array. They've got us all in a whirl. Preparing to go aloft in competition for the Parachute Jumping Championship of France, these daredevils act like it's just daily routine, with not a flicker of expression, even on this pretty face, to indicate the hair-raising feats in store. For it's a free fall competition, with honors to the shooters who falls longest without cracking open his canopy. Judges watch anxiously, for the slightest miscalculation could spell disaster. But it's a perfect landing, right on target. And another hits the silk. Seems to have drifted a little off his course here. Or did he? Right in his own backyard. And winding things up, the highlight of the meet, a spectacular leap, a swan dive through empty space, dropping thousands of feet in free flight. What a jump. Hey, it's my turn. Oh, look, here he comes now. And it's no surprise that this is the champ. It's round roundup time in Pendleton, Oregon, and 1,000 Indians, biggest turnout of modern times, add Old West color to the three-day jamboree that draws 30,000 spectators to the rodeo. More than 100 top cowboys competing for thousands in cash prizes. Bucks in more ways than one. Broncos full of vim and vinegar. Cowhands tossed like salad. He's reluctant. Wants to pass the buck, I suppose. That's a horse of a different color. Him heap big sissy. But bulldogging is no sissy sport, and this'll liven things up a-plenty. You've heard of get along little dogies? Well, here's a little doggie who wants to get along. Sporting thrills on the up and up at Guilford, New Hampshire. Hill climb champs off and away for the national title. They hope. It's a steep order coaxing a motorcycle up that incline, and many a rider gets tossed for a loss. Old Man Gravity is one tough customer. But gravity can't stop them all, and here's your winner. Speed merchants of four nations, England, France, Holland, and Italy, give her that wide-open throttle as they compete for the President's Cup. The course is an uphill, down-dale grind on the outskirts of Paris, and skirting with danger it is, as the cycle champs churn along in a hilly dilly that gives me the willies. The winner is Henri France. Rhymes with pants. 3,500 well-wishers, a record throng, gather outside St. Matthew's Cathedral in Washington, as notables, including Harold Stassen, arrive for Senator McCarthy's wedding. Movie star Constance Bennett and Vice President Nixon attend the colorful nuptials, in which the controversial Wisconsin senator is wed to his former aide and one-time university beauty queen, Jean Kerr. The new Mrs. McCarthy, who is 14 years younger than her famous groom, is a storybook bride who captures the hearts of onlookers in front of the cathedral. Then on to the reception, where Joe and Jean do the honors with a king-sized wedding cake, and Jack Dempsey busses the bride. Best wishes to bride and groom. After 10 long years, a contingent of German prisoners of war are returned to their homeland. In all, they number 458 men, women, and children. They are the first of a total of 4,500 to be repatriated by the Russians by Christmas of this year. Many of these children are seeing the land of their forefathers for the first time. There are frantic reunions in which relatives seek news of their loved ones still behind the Iron Curtain. Germans claim there are still 250,000 in captivity. But for the moment, the reunion of two brothers wipes away the bitterness of slave labor camps. In the headlines is the Army's Amazon Annie, the giant mobile cannon that fires both conventional high explosives and atomic artillery shells. A battalion of the terrifyingly potent weapons will be shipped to Europe in support of NATO forces, a significant deployment of the free world's might. And with this announcement comes the first films of Amazon Annie actually firing an atomic shell. And there it is, the familiar sinister contours of the atomic cloud. A dramatic punctuation mark for these historic Defense Department films of the most lethal blast ever unleashed by any artillery weapon in history.
Still to come, Ike maps out a plan for the Cold War and what was new in 1953. In 1953, Americans were introduced to the first color television broadcast, TV Guide magazine, and CinemaScope.
At the White House, President Eisenhower is host to State Secretary Dulles, France's Foreign Minister Georges Bidault, and the British Foreign Secretary Lord Salisbury. The big three conferees paid their respects prior to their Cold War huddle at the State Department. Lord Salisbury is first to arrive for the meeting, made momentous by events behind the Iron Curtain. Exploiting what Mr. Dulles calls the great opportunity provided by satellite unrest and the downfall of Beria, is the problem facing Monsieur Bidault and his colleagues. Is the initiative in the Cold War passing to the West? These three men are striving to see that it does.
Trieste, long a pawn in Balkan politics, again is the scene of crisis. Italians, informed that American and British troops are being withdrawn, see the defiant Yugoslav signs across the barricades separating the two zones. Signs proclaiming that Yugoslavia will never give up the city. Meanwhile, jubilant Italians see the raising of their flag for the first time since 1945. A Big Three conference in London may well place the disposition of Trieste high on its agenda. On the other side of the controversy, mobs storm the American embassy in Belgrade, breaking several windows. Rioting throughout the city continues periodically for days, following defiant speeches in which Marshal Tito threatened invasion of the disputed zone. Reinforced security police are hard-pressed to restore order as excitement among the rioters amounts to fever pitch. Incidents such as these keep the Yugoslav capital in a turmoil, while diplomats mull over a problem that may find its way to the United Nations for decision. Trieste becomes a major threat to peace.
Rome makes another bid for the title of fashion capital of the world, with four of Italy's leading designers pooling their talents in a swank showing of evening attire. Time was when all roads led to Rome, and today it seems many a style-wise traveler is discovering a new road paved with fashion's finest and lined with admiring glances. Black cape, white gown, contrasting and colorful. The archway frames Italian lovelies in lovely outfits, and a close-up of one reveals an interesting neckline. Paris, New York, Rome, whichever city you insist is the world's fashion capital, you must admit a pretty face is universal. No wardrobe is complete, so I hear tell, without a fur coat, and neither is a fashion show. So here is a beautiful finish to fashion finery.
At Hershey, Pennsylvania, over 20,000 guests turn out for President Eisenhower's gala 63rd birthday party. After supper, the President and First Lady enter the jammed arena in a Pennsylvania Dutch buggy drawn by a dapple gray mare. A Pennsylvania farmer himself, the President lights the candles on the 25-foot-high cake in proper homespun style. Lights out as 6,000 guests light candles, a dramatic setting for birthday wishes of good luck. A happy finale to a mammoth success of a party, expressing the sentiments of all toward the President. On a state visit to Paraguay, Argentina's President Juan Perón receives an enthusiastic reception from the populace. While on this goodwill trip, the Argentine leader revealed a reorientation of his nation's foreign policy, praising President Eisenhower and announcing his support for hemispheric solidarity. Good tidings for America's good neighbor policy. Small to smaller, a pocket-sized Bantam biplane takes a bow. Builder of the plane, which he claims is stall-proof and spin-proof, is John Pontius of Los Altos, California. Pontius is pilot on the first flight of the 12-foot midget with 20-foot wingspan and 36-horse two-cylinder motor. Can she fly? Like a bumblebee. Doesn't seem possible, but seeing is believing. A young man comes home. Crown Prince Akihito comes home to crowds, cameras, and ceremony, completing a world tour that took him to new lands and new experiences. Older and wiser in the ways of the world, he returns to Tokyo, where a formal and polite reception greets the heir to a throne. Paris. April in Paris, or June, or November. Does the month make any difference? Mais non. The time is always ripe for a beauty contest. This one, incidentally, to pick a shapely mamselle to compete for the Miss World title in London. At times like this, words fail a fella, but who needs words? Denise Perrier An 18-year-old art student from Lyon is the winner. Still speechless.
Once again, it's Yankees versus Dodgers, and 70,000 fans pour into Yankee Stadium for the opening game of the 50th anniversary of the World Series. Managers Casey Stengel and Chuck Bresson, with baseball commissioner Ford Frick on hand, have their top hurlers, Reynolds for the Yanks and Erskine for the Dodgers, warmed up as old-time pitcher Cy Young throws out the first ball, and the fans wait for action on the field. They don't wait long. Hank Bauer, Yankee right fielder, greets Erskine with a solid smash to right center. Joe Collins, Yankee first sacker, who had walked previously, races all the way around from first as Bauer's drive eludes the Dodger outfield. Collins scores, and Bauer winds up with a triple. The blue-chip bombers from the Bronx keep up the pressure. Gene Woodling walks to load him up, setting the stage for the big blow of the first inning by second baseman Billy Martin. Billy really blasted the ball, clearing the bases with one swing of his bat. His was only the second hit of the inning, but the perennial champs come up with 4 runs, 3 of them via Martin's triple. Yankee fans are whooping it up for joy. Brooklyn fans are stunned. They'd hoped for a better start from their team, called the greatest in Dodger history. But they come to life in the 6th. George Schuba comes up with a pinch-hit home run into the right field seats, and backers of those beloved Bums have something to holler about. Billy Cox scores ahead of Schuba, and the Dodgers trail by only 1 run. In the 7th, Carl Furillo, playing with an injured hand, crashes through with a single through the middle, sending Campanella homeward bound with the run that ties it up at 5-all. National League boosters yell for more, but they yell in vain. Collins up for New York. That had a home run sound to it, and a home run look to it. Collins circles the sacks to get a royal welcome when he crosses home plate. His long poke put the champs out front, and they stayed there, winning the opener by a score of 9-5. Wait till tomorrow.
In 1953, President Eisenhower told the nation, "We have won an armistice on a single battleground." When Year by Year returns, the peace talks at Panmunjom. Stay with us. Welcome back to Year by Year. The Korean War lasted from 1950 to 1953. Over 25,000 Americans lost their lives. More than 100,000 were wounded, and almost 8,000 were listed MIA. On July 27, 1953, the armistice was signed by the U.S., North Korea, and China. Join us now as we look at the peace talks at Panmunjom.
Of renewed optimism, General Harrison, UN senior delegate, is closely followed by General Nam Il, arriving for further truce talks at Panmunjom. Again, the main point of dispute is the disposition of prisoners of war unwilling to be repatriated. Again, the United Nations are adamant in their stand that a neutral country acceptable to both sides must supervise the exchange and provide a haven for them. Following initial talks, General Harrison reflects his confidence in interviews with the press. Unofficially, it is hoped that India may be the nation to break the deadlock. But in Seoul, crowds in a near riotous mood demonstrate in mass meetings protesting any truce except on Korean terms. Their orators harangue the crowd under slogans which paraphrase the immortal words of Patrick Henry. Even as peace hopes are revived for the fighting front, Korea still remains a turbulent and divided land. Typhoons smash Indochina and Japan, taking a toll of over 1,000 in the two nations, leaving a trail of destruction and flooded desolation. Thousands of homes are inundated on Honshu, Japan's main island, in the wake of the 90-mile-an-hour winds. Millions of dollars damage still to be totaled up as survivors begin returning to the still flooded area to salvage what little they can. Realizing that many automobile injuries are caused by a crash against the steering wheel, French engineers have devised a wheel that has resilience to take up the shock of impact. At a proving ground near Paris, a test driver is willing to risk his ribs as he roars up to a standing vehicle and smashes into it at full speed. See, he's upright, and so is the wheel. Now he tries it again, this time in a small sedan, and at speeds of 55 miles an hour, he plows into a standing car. And once again, voila, he emerges unscathed. The moral is that it's much better to have the wheel collapse than the driver. N'est-ce pas? The big semi-trailer truck, nemesis of the pleasure driver, may soon be a vanishing species on American highways, shifted to the rails thanks to a new type of piggyback trucking to benefit railroads, truckers, and the ordinary motorist. A new General Motors flat car that can handle 2 semi-trailers is teamed with a large hydraulic lift truck, specially designed to maneuver the trailer aboard in mere minutes. It's just a matter of hooking onto the towing plate and swinging the trailer into position. The trailer kingpin is lowered into a slotted stanchion, locked into place, and she's ready to roll. Now possible is a rail highway coordination program that will mean added revenues to truckers and railroads with improved service all around. Good tidings indeed. They're off and running at the Marco Polo restaurant in New York. A bevy of belles chomping into the calories in the season's first and only spaghetti derby. No hands, no silverware. Just bite yourself a wad of the slippery confetti and inhale. That's the stuff, sister. Just keep a stuffing and let the sauce fall where it may. A gal can really get wrapped up in her work competing in a contest of this sort. And if everything pans out, we'll have a winner by and by. And the winner rises to the occasion. She ate the spaghetti, you bet. She really used her noodle. Queen of the spaghetti eaters, she. But trouble brews. A poor loser has no appetite for second fiddle and provides her own crown for a queen. That'll take the starch out of her. 900 members of the Council of the French Republic gather at Versailles to elect a new president. They comprise members of the Chamber of Deputies and the Senate. All precedents are shattered in one of the most bitterly contested elections in French history. 13 ballots are taken before the necessary majority to elect is achieved. The battle lines are drawn between conservative and left-wing elements. Finally, René Coty, comparatively unknown senator, is chosen and is congratulated by outgoing President Oriol. He is accompanied by Prime Minister Laniel, who came close to victory himself. A political crisis passes. The 10 finalists for the Miss America crown parade before the judges and an appreciative audience in Atlantic City. Of the 52 girls who entered the beauty pageant, these 10 are still in there pitching, and 10 minus 9 will be Miss America. And here's the blonde co-ed who thought she bulged in the wrong places. The judges didn't think so, and 20-year-old Evelyn A. of Pennsylvania receives her crown from last year's winner. Miss A is Miss America. Sound and spectacle on Lake Washington, Seattle, where the Gold Cup Regatta roars away before throngs along the shore. Gold Cup, first raced in 1904 and won then with a speed of 26 miles per hour. Today, the sleek skipjacks hit speeds many times 26 as they race around a 30-mile course. 3 heats in all, 90 grueling miles. The defending champion is Stanley Sayre's slow motion fourth, and the old queen of the speedboat world writes a new speed record for the classic, winning all 3 heats with an average time of 92+ miles an hour. New records for old Slow-Mo, her 3rd Gold Cup in 4 years. She's still the queen. The ace of clubs, Ben Hogan, tees off at Leesburg, Virginia, paired with young Dean Beeman in an exhibition match at the Goose Creek Country Club. A big gallery's on hand to see Golfdom's triple winner in action, and Texas Ben gives him a thrill. 15-year-old Beeman, junior golf sensation, gives the Open champ a run for the money. Here's Hogan holing out. Why, that ornery little pill. But as Ben says to Dean, sometimes golf is like that. Good time track at Goshen for the Kentucky Derby of trotting races, the Hambletonian. 20,000 fans are all eyes and all cheers as the record field battles it out in the third and final heat for a record purse of $63,000. Favored to cop both gold and glory is a filly named of Helicopter. Like her name, she's had her ups and downs, came in 17th in the first heat, but bounced back up to win the second. Offspring of another Hamiltonian winner and driven by a young Vermont farm boy, Harry Harvey, Helicopter sets her sights on victory. It doesn't come easy. There's a fight for it all the way. And Lady Luck enters the picture, too. Kimberly Kidd leading now. Breaks stride as Helicopter pulls alongside. And it's Helicopter taking off for final victory. Fine finish for a fancy filly.
Francis Cardinal Spellman celebrates his third Christmas with the troops, visiting American units in a strenuous pre-Christmas Eve round that takes him to some 10,000 soldiers. As military vicar for Catholics in the armed forces, Cardinal Spellman has visited Korea each year since the war began to bring the message of the holiday to our fighting men. Now, though combat is ended, the men still hold their positions, and at the season dedicated to peace on earth, the celebration of Mass is a reminder that their vigil against renewed communist aggression is not in vain.
John F. Kennedy wasn't the only U.S. Senator whose 1953 wedding appeared in the year's newsreels. Senator Joseph McCarthy got married, too, though the news clip of his wedding failed to mention the headlines the senator was making in another area. McCarthy was the man behind the anti-communist hysteria that gripped the nation in 1953. The Truman administration, he said, had been crawling with communists. The frenzy only increased when the Soviets exploded their own hydrogen bomb, and when Julius and Ethel Rosenberg were executed in June for selling military secrets to the Russians. Charlie Chaplin was fingered as a communist sympathizer, and the beloved little tramp who had made America laugh through the Great Depression was banned from entering the United States. This has been Year by Year. I'm Karen Stone for the History Channel. Thanks for joining us.
It's called the Pledge of Allegiance. Stay tuned for more news later on the History Channel.